So thank you very much for joining today's coffee break from us here at SCOMathon, brought to you by Squared Up and Cookdown, where today we're going to be looking at a deep dive into a SCOM Administrator's toolbox. More on what that means in a second. But first, just to say, if you're not already on our Slack channel, then if you use this link here, which should have also been in the joining email you got at the beginning, if there are any questions or any SCOM questions or discussion points relating to this or not, you can put them there and we'll answer them. And we're always monitoring it. So do join us on Slack. So I guess now is a good place to introduce myself. So I'm Bruce Cullen. I'm the Director of Products at Cookdown. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce a SCOMathon regular. Welcome, Stoyan. So today we have Stoyan Chalakov with us. Stoyan, you're an MVP and a Senior Principal Consultant. It's great to have you with us. Hello.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure, and it's a really great pleasure for me to present at today's event. And I really hope we can show some interesting stuff to all the attendees.
I'm sure, and that's a great place to sort of like segue into, today's topic, which is the SCOM Administrator's Toolkit, a deep dive. So this whole topic came out of SCOMathon, a conference from back in June, where you presented on this topic, and there were loads of really interesting questions and loads of people wanting to go deeper on some of the specific tools, but we just simply didn't have the time. So today, this whole session is essentially to show that really cool, interesting stuff you showed us last time, but in more detail. So I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in, and thank you for being up for sharing.
Thanks, Bruce. That's really the case. What I want just to mention is we really covered a lot of topics back at the SCOMathon event, and today I think I will focus on my personal tools and scripts and all the stuff I use in my day-to-day activities when administering SCOM. So there are so many tools and so many solutions out there that we cannot present them all. But it's my, let's say, narrowed choice what we are going to see today.
Sounds good. As you say, there's loads out there, and I would recommend, if anyone's left going, oh, what about this, that you check out Stoyan's session from SCOMathon back in June. All the recordings are on scomathon.com. So without further ado, let's dig in and see what we're going to cover.
So guys, I have tried to break down all the tools and the scripts in different categories, and today we will cover those different categories. First, we will start with some PowerShell-based tools, or actually scripts, which are I'm really using on very often when I'm administering customers' environments. Then we will continue with some graphical user interface based tools. Some of them you might know already, some of them not. And then afterwards we will cover some management packs which I use in almost every environment which I'm taking care of. And last but not least, we are going to cover some support options, or where you can get help if you need any regarding SCOM. So
it's going to be needed, I'm sure, at some point. There are always going to be questions that won't be answerable. Yeah,
that's right. That's the case. So guys, without further ado, let's start with the PowerShell-based scripts. I will try to shortly present to you the script and also give you some information about why I'm using this particular script, and of course also what problems I'm solving there. We will start with the SCOM Helper module functions. Actually, the SCOM Helper module, it's covered by the block of the monitoring guys, and it contains a number of very useful CMDlets. So the whole module contains many different CMDlets, not only those which you are going to see now on the screen. I'm going to really encourage you to Google it and then see all the rest of the module CMDlets which are available. What I'm using very often is the new SCOM class graph. This particular CMDlet gives me the possibility to draw, let's say, a kind of graphical representation of a certain class in SCOM. As you know, SCOM is all about classes and objects belonging to different classes, and also the whole structure of classes. So this is very helpful to me in a number of occasions when I need to see a graphical representation of the class. What else is there? So we have also the start SCOM overrides tool. We have also the possibility to deploy a SCOM agent using this module. Actually, this particular CMDlet gives you a graphical user interface where you can put some data like a management group name, a management server name, stuff like this, and do a nice agent deployment. I'm using it often for automation purposes. The next thing, which is also part of the module, is the export SCOM effective monitoring configuration reports. And this, guys, is really very helpful stuff, because this is a request which I get almost every week. So the customer just wants to see which workflows, and I'm talking here rules, monitors, and discoveries are applied to a particular server or to a group of servers. And on the next slide, we will also go into details. So what I'm also using from the PowerShell module is get SCOM run as account name. It's a cool CMDlet. If you're doing automation or you want to just check some stuff, it's the way to go. The next thing is, of course, remove SCOM obsolete references from MP file. You know how painful it is if you let's say have an environment where you have lots of overrides stored in an override management pack. You certainly, if you remove some management packs, you certainly have obsolete references there. So in order to delete a management pack, you need to prior to deleting a management pack, you need to delete, of course, all the references to this particular management pack from an override management pack, because otherwise you get an error in the SCOM console. So this is also very useful stuff.
Super useful.
Of course, absolutely. And of course, there are many more, like we already said. Just go to the monitoring guys page or Google the SCOM Helper module, and you can explore them all. And now, like we already mentioned, we want to see a bit more detail about the SCOM effective monitoring configuration report, or a script, actually. So the script, what it actually does is you want to see what is monitored on your server, which rules, which monitors are applied, and very important, if there are also overrides to those rules and monitors, and also you want to get a nice, let's say, report where you can filter stuff or present stuff to your management or to the customer, no matter. So let's see how it looks like. I'm actually using a script version but you can also use the CMDlet from the module. And what's important here is, if you see on the screenshot, the cool thing is you can do the report targeting a group of servers, like here on the example, it's all Windows computers, or you can also target a single server, like seen on the screenshot, like the SQL 01. And then after you do this, after a couple of minutes, you get this nice report where you can filter out based on a number of different parameters and present a filtered view to your customer. I want to show you very quickly how this looks like. I find that this script is very good. It's being very good developed. So the output you get is very informative. And let's jump to
So
this.
you have a demo for us, so I will make you presenter. And while we're changing over, there's a question on a previous point that's in the chat window here, which is, could the new SCOM class graph be used for reversing the class structure to identify what classes may not be inherited from Windows Computer, for example?
Oh, that's a nice question. To be honest, I haven't looked at this from this perspective, but this is something now when we are talking about this is something very interesting. So what I can do is, of course, just do some testing and then try to answer the question. So if you leave some kind of contact information, I'll try to get back to you with an answer on this. Because to be honest, now I'm not prepared to answer this.
No worries, no worries. I ditto. I don't know the answer. I believe it is yes, but I'm not 100% certain. We've used the
Yeah, I'll
tool.
try not to say yes, because sometimes it's just in a hurry without being
Sometimes it's not.
100% sure. So
Yeah,
I just want to run it and to check it out.
sure.
What I wanted to show you guys is the export SCOM monitoring configuration stuff. So the script I'm using was actually, let's say, optimized by Tyson Poe. You see his name here. And what it does actually, when you run it against one computer, it generates different CSV files and then converges them. So what I'm going to show you is how I'm using it to, let's say, export all the rules, all the monitors with their values and the overrides against a certain group. And in this case, I'll just take a Windows Server computer group, because this is my demo environment. I have only 2 systems there. And I'll just select the target folder for the results where all the CSV files are stored. What I very much like about this is when you run it, you get a really nice, sorry guys, you get a really nice colored output, and then you can hit continue and you get asked, do you want to continue? And then let's say the progress of the script is being displayed on your screen, so you can really see what the script is now doing, on which server it is working. And as you see here, it's the server SRV01 in my environment. So it takes about, let's say, 3 or 4 minutes to dump all the configuration. But so that we don't have to wait, I'll just get back to the previous exported configuration, just to show you guys how it looks like in the end result. So this is the Excel file which gets generated by the script. The cool thing is, if you notice here, you get all the classes, all the instance names, and when you scroll to the side, you see the respective rule or monitoring name. So you see here if it's enabled or not. And very cool thing is you see if it's really overridden or not. So this is here, just let me. So you see here, based on this column, overridden. So what I'm going to do now is just select only really the rules and monitors and discoveries which have already overridden. So I just selected true. And you see a filtered output of all the overrides. You see the default value, and right next to it, you see also the override value. So it's a nice way of presenting the effective monitoring configuration, either to our management team or to your customer. And Bruce, I think you can take over.
Sure, I'll take the screen back, but just to say that is sort of super useful. It's one of those that even if you understand SCOM, knowing what is actually in effect, if you've inherited a SCOM management group, that tool can be super useful for that purpose as well.
Absolutely. So the next thing we are going to shortly cover is reset alerted monitors. So this is, of course, a topic only for older versions of SCOM, but since they're still plenty of them out there, I think it's still relevant to talk about this. I personally have, let's say, have customers, or I have 50-50. Let's say 50% of my customers are still on SCOM 2016. The other half are already in SCOM 2019. So for the 50% of the customers, it still applies. So what happens in lots of cases is when you delegate the end, let's say the alert management to the respective teams, like you have an Active Directory team, they're managing their own alerts, and you have an SCO team, for example, they're doing also the same. And then at some point, you notice that if, for example, there are new team members which are not that familiar with SCOM, they're just closing the alerts without, of course, considering whether the alert comes from a monitor or whether it comes from a rule. So as you know, when you do this, the problem with this is if you close an alert from a monitor, this monitor, if it does not change state, it will stay in the same state and it will not alert again. This means that if you really have a problem, after you have closed the alert, you won't get notified. And this is something we really want to, let's say, avoid and to solve. To solve this, I have tried a different number of scripts. I have noticed that some of them are not resetting all the monitors from all the classes. And my particular choice, you see it on the screen now, comes from this particular block. I have tested it thoroughly. And the really awesome thing about this particular script is that you can either use the execute mode, which directly gets all the monitors which have already generated alerts, and those alerts have been closed by an operator, not by the system. That's important. Or the other thing you can do is also report on the number of monitors. So if you use the report function, those monitors are not being reset, but you get a nice report about this. So Bruce might ask, why would you need the report stuff, right?
Oh,
so
the report stuff is really useful. Yeah, flagging how big an issue this even is in your deployment, you know? Yeah, super valuable.
This is absolutely one of the use cases. And the other one, almost all my customers are, let's say, integrating SCOM with some kind of ticketing or ITSM tool. So you can imagine what happens if you, let's say, have 100 alerts which have been closed this way. So if you do the execute mode, you get most probably, let's say, 100 new alerts, and this will automatically generate 100 new incidents. So this is something you might want to avoid by creating a report in advance and see really how many monitors are affected.
Right. And you can handle those incidents or the suppression of those incidents based on what's in the report.
Exactly. So next we are moving to a couple of PowerShell lines which I'm using to reset a single monitor which has alerted many times. So the most common use case for this, I want to make a cleanup. I want just to ensure, because some of the monitors, they do have an auto close option, some of them not. And in order to clean up and to let's say refire all the alerts, I'm using a script or let's say basic PowerShell script which actually gets the monitor using its display name, then gets also the targeted class, and it does a reset of all the monitors or of all the alerts. Sorry. So this is also I'm using on a daily basis, and this is how it looks like. So you're getting the monitor using the display name. Afterwards, you're getting the monitored class, or the targeted class, actually, targeted by the monitor. And at the end, you are doing the reset here. Please note here that if you see the statement after, so health state equals error, this could be also a warning here, because you could have also monitors which are having two states, so critical and healthy, or warning and healthy. So you might want to place a warning here also if your monitor is configured that way. And then moving next is something I'm using also very, very frequently, and this is forcing a SCOM discovery. The use case for this is you're doing some overriding to a particular discovery, and you don't want to wait the full, let's say, 4 hours or the interval which is set up for this discovery. So you might want to somehow force this discovery, and I have blogged about this. This is not my my solution. I found it after searching on the internet, I think in a comment section of a forum, and this looks like this. So what you need to do this is the display name of the discovery. So having the display name of the discovery, then you can input it in this short PowerShell script, and this is how the output looks like. You see the status of the discovery started, and this is the actual code I'm using to force SCOM discoveries. The most frequent use is actually for the SQL management pack if you're doing some overrides, disabling of particular SQL instances or whole servers, and you want to force the discovery. This is a great way to do it. And as you see, I have also referenced here where I took the script from. So it's not my script. It is really working perfectly, and I just want to show you shortly how I'm doing this. And we might want to jump to the demo section here.
So let me make you presenter again. We use this script all the time internally, although our use case is a bit weird because obviously we're making SCOM MPs, so for us it's usually in our test lab to kick our lab to do something quick because we don't have to wait.
Cool. I'm happy that I'm not the only one who is using this. So this is actually the output you see, guys, from the our script. It's in a CSV format. That is why it looks like this. But if you open it in Excel or format it accordingly, then you'll get a nice filtered view, which we saw previously. So let's jump to the SCOM discovery stuff. And for this purpose, I'm just going to select a random discovery here. Let's say the AD topology discovery. So what I need here is, in order to force this, just copy the discovery name and just I'm going to close this and just paste it here in the script. The only thing you need, and then I'm just going to select this all and run it. And right away, you see the output of this, who has submitted the task, the status of the task. So I can now rely on the fact that I have started this discovery. So if I have made any overrides, then they should be already taken into consideration. Thank you, Bruce. I think you can get the screen back.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So having this in mind, we already covered resetting monitors or reset a single monitor, switch many alerts. The next thing I'm using also a lot is closing old alerts which are coming from rules. It's just, let's say, an old script written by a dear friend of mine, Bob, SCOM Bob. I think everyone who is dealing with SCOM knows Bob.
Yes.
And the use case for it, I think it's pretty clear, right, Bruce? So you open your console and you see, let's say, 100 or I don't know how many alerts, and you just want to close old alerts from rules because as you know, rules, we will refire them. They don't have state. They will fire every time the condition is fulfilled. So if you want to clean up, this is the best way. And this is how the script looks like. It's pretty simple. The cool thing about this, Bruce, if you show us also the PowerShell code, exactly, thank you. You'll notice here the H hours parameter or the variable. So you can adjust really how many days or hours actually you can get back in the past and close only the alerts which are meeting this criteria. So not, for example, not all alerts from rules, but only the alerts which are older than 3 days or 5 days or whatever you have in mind. So
we have
like I said,
customers that
yes,
I was just
like I
going to
said,
say, we
for
have
cleaning
customers that
purposes, it's
use this exact switch, and they script the execution of the scripts to run programmatically every now and then to clear up all the old scripts, all the old alerts automatically. It's
absolutely,
very common.
absolutely, yeah. So this is a simple script, but very useful one. And the next thing is also, I think, a brilliant stuff for me personally. And when I'm doing troubleshooting, is the check gateway or agent certificate script. The use case for this, Bruce, I think doing SCOM, you have also faced the same issue. Is you want to connect, let's say, an agent or a gateway which is not from the same domain or Kerberos realm. So you don't have a Kerberos authentication, so you need a certificate. So you issue your certificates, you install them, you import them with the momcert import tool, and you're happy to see your system green, but it's not the case. So you start troubleshooting, and of course, the first thing to check is the certificate. So the certificate needs to meet some criteria in order to be useful, and actually, this particular script, which you see on the screen, is evaluating all the criteria, and it presents you with a very nice, let's say, highlighted view of for each certificate which has been evaluated. So it gets all the certificates from your personal store, and it presents you a nice view if they're meeting the criteria or not. So an example with a good one, you see this particular certificate meets all the criteria. So it has the proper subject name, it has a private key, a proper expiration date, enhanced key usage, all the extensions, and all the thing you need to have a proper certificate for SCOM. If you want to know how, let's say, a bad one looks like, this is the case. So you see also the red area, so the private keys is missing in this particular example. There are other problems also with the key usage and the key spec. And if you try to do this manually, it's really switching from one console to the other and checking this property and that and this and that. And for me, it's very helpful just to take the script, run it on the system, and it does evaluate for me if the certificate is okay or not. So please find this. It's very helpful and it's time saving also.
Agreed. Yeah, the big one for me is just remembering the list of things to check, you know. So if this is all scripted, then I'm not going to forget it, which is always good.
That's really a good point, Bruce. And because of this, I also decided to include the script here in our session today. So the next big topic, guys, is the GUI-based tools. You most probably know some of them, and I call them the old and gold stuff. I'm missing an F here, and just see. But what's important for this is actually the tools which are out there to help us do different stuff. And we'll start with the MP Viewer. So the MP Viewer is a tool which can help you to visualize a management pack. unseal or export to Excel. Then you can also use it for opening bundles, not simple management pack, also XML files. You can see all the modules, or you can also view the underlying scripts which are using in the modules of the management pack. You can load directly the files from your management group, and it has also many other very helpful functions. We are going to see shortly afterwards how this looks like and what's the most used function, or by me, let's say, the function I use the most. The next tool we are going to cover is the Override Explorer. So it helps you easily view or display overrides, and you can also export them in an Excel spreadsheet. And last but not least, let's touch the override creator, where you create overrides in box or for many workflows at once. If you want to disable multiple workflows, no matter if it's discoveries or monitors or rules, and you don't want to use PowerShell for some reason, just use the override creator. Bruce, may I shortly show to our attendees how the what I'm actually using for the MP viewer?
Sure. Do you want me to make you presenter now?
Yes, thank you.
All right, let's do it.
So guys, jumping back to my SCOM server, and actually to the override, to the management pack viewer, sorry. I have loaded here, let me show you, I have loaded the SQL Server Management Pack, and you can, in this particular example, I'm going to show you the, for example, the SQL Server Monitoring Management Pack. So if I click on Open, it gets loaded, and here on the left side, you can see all the classes, all the console tasks, and on the right side, you get all the entries which are available in the management pack. So you see, for example, all the tasks, the targets, what application are there starting, and also a short description. And the same applies also for, let's say, monitors. You see all the monitors within the SQL management pack, then all the rules. So what I'm using this for is actually I'm doing a nice HTML export. Let me show you. I'm going to export on my desktop SQL Server Monitoring, and I'm going to save this. So the export generates a nice HTML file, which looks like this. And the cool thing is you can send it over to a customer, and you can see all the descriptions, all the names of the monitors which are within this management pack. If there are discoveries there, I'm just going to shortly scroll here. What is this? For example, aggregate monitors, rules, and all the stuff presented in a nice HTML format. So this is the most used function by me for the management pack viewer. And getting back to Bruce.
But before I go back to slides, there are a load of questions that I'll get to afterwards, because we don't need to take them sort of as they're coming up, but there are a few that won't make sense unless I do take them now. So does this display the product knowledge as well? Is the one of the questions?
Yes, it does. And if I may show you here, actually for the different monitors, if we click on a monitor, it displays a nice knowledge, let's say the knowledge information which is available within this. You can also check the raw XML. So this particular part of your management pack, and you can also check on the alert description for each monitor. I don't see any here, but yes, you can do this. Just my advice would be just download it, load a certain management pack, and just see what you can do with it, what you can see there, and if it's of any use for you. Like I said, in the most cases, if I need to look up a monitor, I'm using other tools, but this the MP viewer I'm using for mostly for exports when I need to send the information from management pack to a person or customer.
Yeah, it's really useful. It displays it really nicely, and like you say, once you've got that data in you know, in an Excel file, then that's really valuable because you don't need
Yes,
to know
that's the
SCOM to
reason.
see Excel.
That's the case.
Just going to share my screen again, but before we go back into slides, there are a number of questions on where can we get these scripts from. We'll share all the URLs later on, and there'll be a blog that that captures what we've shared today on the SCOMathon site when we get round to writing it.
Cool, and I'll be glad to share with you all the links to all the scripts I'm using, so that you can use them also. And
We
guys,
will.
let's try to show you a couple of more useful tools. So data warehouse grooming and retention configuration. So you all know how to, let's say, to change the retention settings of your data warehouse. So previously, it was actually, this could be done using a specific tool. It's a command line tool. It's called the DW Data RP tool. So it's not a GUI-based tool. It's a command line tool, like I said, and it allows you to modify all the sets, the different data sets within your data warehouse, and how long the data stays there. The particular use cases, in most cases, by default, you have a retention period of, for many of the data sets, at around 400 days. Of course, this is not bad, but let's say if your organizations have the requirement just to keep the data only, let's say for 1 year, then you can reduce the retention period, and this will save a lot of space for you. So this is how it looks like when you're using the data warehouse data RP tool. You need to issue a number of commands to change all the different data set, like performance data set, alert data set, and stuff like this. And there is a cool tool which you can use if you want to do it in a graphical way, which is, in my opinion, much more pleasant and easier way to do this. And this is using the data warehouse grooming settings tool. So it's really GUI-based, and it allows you to very easy and quick modify all the settings and get, of course, a summary of which are the current settings in your environment. It looks like this. So you just need to enter your data warehouse information, where it's located, and of course, which database name, and you can then select the data set name. And I want to show you now very shortly how this looks like and how convenient this really is. I'm jumping back to my my demo server, and
while you do that, just quickly, a few more questions that need the context to be asked.
oh really?
So one question that you know is not necessarily obvious is, why would you want to change the amount of time that you retain data for, either longer or shorter? You know, it's a very, very good question, and it's one that comes up quite often.
And of course, the reason for wanting to change all the settings is because if you keep the data for 400 days, then your data warehouse gets very, very big. So specifically in bigger organizations where you have a lot of data, so a lot of agents, a lot of management packs, your data warehouse database is going to really need, let's say, 700-800 gigabytes or terabytes of data. I have had an environment with, let's say, 3 terabyte of data warehouse. And of course, very, let's say, it's a matter of costs, because storage nowadays, although it's cheaper, it has a certain cost. And if you really don't need to keep all the data for that long, it's not a bad idea to change the retention settings. So you're saving space in your data warehouse, you're cleaning up old stuff, and that's the main reason, I think, for this.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I would agree. The other thing I've heard that's come up is we have a fixed amount of storage available to us. So what can we do to kind of like make that storage data, the capacity go further, which is where some of the tools like MPView and Override Explorer and stuff come in handy, so you can tune down stuff and not generate as many like events, say, or alerts to have to store them in the first place.
that's a very good example, Bruce. That's a very good
All right,
example.
let you
So
demo.
let's see how this looks like. So I'm going to start the tool, and you see initially it's empty. And what I found out actually the first time I've used it is that when I started, it automatically detected my SCOM data warehouse because it's on the same server. I cannot tell you right now if this happens if you run it on a server which does not have the databases on it. Because that's in my case the situation, but you can at any time just enter it manually. So you see all the information, and now just click on the Get Current Settings, and right away you see the values for all the data sets I have in my environment. So you see the performance data set, hourly aggregations of data, 400 days, and all the other data sets. And you can see now how easy it is to modify those. You don't have to issue some commands and check the syntaxes and check all the numbers. You just need to click here on the dataset name. And now just take, for example, the performance dataset. Let me click on it. This is the one. And I would select aggregation type, in this case, the hourly aggregation. And I will you see automatically gets populated with the current settings, 400 days, and I'll say now I want to have it only for 180 days. And I'm going to set this, and you see data performance is being set, and it all right away it gets updated here in the current retention column, and you see this right away. So very, very easy, without commands, without other tools. Get it. If you're still using the old command line tool, just get this one. I think it will save you time. So that was about all about data warehouse retention stuff. Bruce, it's your turn.
All right.
Oh, actually, it's mine.
It's your
Sorry,
turn.
guys. We back at the SCOMathon event, I have covered a number of management packs. And for this particular webinar, I decided to select only the management packs which I'm using really, really frequent. So each management pack you see on this list, I have it in 90 or 95% of the environments I'm administering. So let's start with the SCOM management pack by Kevin Holman. You have all heard the name. It contains so many helpful functions that we can just spend an entire hour talking about all the stuff. Just Google it if you don't know it, or if you haven't heard of it, just Google it and read the blog of Kevin, and you'll see why this is the #1 in my list. Then moving forward to SQL MP run as accounts management pack. This particular one, I found it's very useful because otherwise you need to ask the customer to either authorize or give permission for local system on the other monitored SQL DB engines if your agent runs on their local system, or you need to use a specific service account which needs to be granted permissions in order to be able to monitor your databases. So this particular management pack gives you the possibility to do this from the SCOM console. Just run or start two administrative tasks. The one creates a login for the health service, and the other one applies the permission for it on your monitor databases, and that's all you need in order to get a certain SQL instance monitored. The next one is the Community Catalog Management Pack. I use it in all the environments where I have a internet connection because this is important prerequisite. This gives me a very nice overview of all the community management packs that are out there. And most of the stuff we are covering right now are really community management packs. So you can directly download it over the Community Catalog Management Pack. That's the guys from the Cookdown, which have provided us with this management pack, and it's a really awesome overview of all the community stuff that is out there.
It's like an app store for SCOM.
Jumping then next to EasyTune, and I can talk a lot of it, but I think I'll let Bruce tell you a couple of words here about it.
Thank you. So EasyTune is essentially a way of managing overrides in SCOM from CSV files, and that's really an important point of EasyTune, because you don't have to understand SCOM's ins and outs to understand what's in a CSV file. Basically, these CSV files contain the would-be tune that you want to get set in SCOM, and you can email them to the domain experts that know the area you're trying to tune, SQL, IS, whatever it might be, and then ultimately get that tuning set up in SCOM, and then go beyond that to see, is the tuning you've set still in effect? So if you have conflicting tuning, all the things, some of the things you had talked about with other tools earlier, Stoyan, around sort of capturing effective tuning, you can do all of that sort of stuff with EasyTune as well. There are a few versions of EasyTune, but there's a free one as well that gives you 90% of what you need, essentially. So yeah, really powerful MP, but then I'm biased. I would say that it's from Cookdown.
The next one is one of my personal favorites. It's again from the guys from Cookdown, and it's the PowerShell MP. So I'm also doing a lot of PowerShell, and if you guys are also familiar with PowerShell, you know that you can achieve almost anything using PowerShell. And the question is, why not leverage this also with SCOM? So this gives you the great possibility to create PowerShell-based monitors and write your own monitoring logic. If you want to, I'll give you an example from last week. I needed to be able to monitor MySQL database, and this was running on Windows, so I didn't have a management pack for this. And I needed a quick and dirty, not dirty, but a quick solution, not that extensive. So altering my my own management pack from zero would be much more, let's say, time-consuming. So the best way to do it, and I did it really with PowerShell, and I used the PowerShell management pack to do a monitor. Really powerful stuff. The next one would be then the log file monitoring management pack from NICE. The guys from NICE did a webinar last week on this. It's, I think, the best log file monitoring solution that is out there for SCOM. If you don't know it already, and if you haven't used it, just download it. They have the version 2 of it and use it. Every time I need to log to monitor a log file, I'm using this particular management pack. Then going back to the security monitoring management pack by Nathan Gao. If you're interested in security monitoring, this could be achieved also with SCOM, and you get a very helpful rules and monitors in this management pack, which are monitoring different security aspects in your environment. Read the blog of Nathan and see what this management pack can do, and you can figure it out if this is something you would like to have also.
Nathan also did a SCOM-a-thon session for us back in June, which is worth checking out, where he did touch on the MP, but touched on SCOM as a security tool and securing SCOM. That's worth checking out as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce. So the next one is a Ping Monitoring Management Pack by OpsLogix. Great solution for checking the availability of your systems. It monitors their presence on the network, like the name suggests. It's Ping Monitoring Management Pack. it's really helpful one if you need basic up and down status monitoring of this. This is the stuff you can use. The next thing would be the PKI certificate validation and management pack. It's the only solution which monitors the expiry date and altogether the let's say the validity of your certificates in the stores of your agents. It's a solution developed initially by Rafael Bodi. It's a Swiss guy, and also in the latest version supported by Bob Cornelissen, who did also a lot of stuff on it. And this one I'm using almost everywhere. So if you don't have it and don't know it, get to know it. The next thing would be the Ops Manager Self-Maintenance Management Pack. There are a lot of functionalities which this management pack provides. There is a whole article by Cookdown, which is actually providing the download location for this management pack. Get familiar with it, read all the blogs that are out there, and see how powerful this management pack by Tao Yang is. And last but not least is the URL Genie management pack. It's bulk website monitoring, and it's really a very powerful and advanced solution to monitor your URLs. If you're not satisfied with the let's say the built-in URL monitors of SCOM, this is the way to go.
Agreed. It's really intuitive, really.
Yes, very helpful and also very commonly used. I'll try to be as quick as possible. On the next couple of slides, they're about management pack authoring. So if you do this, then most probably you're already familiar with this. We're starting with the SCOM console, where of course you can do a lot of stuff like process monitoring, URL monitoring, service monitoring. Also, you have a nice template for this. And it's of course the first choice if you do want to do something in a quick way. This is very helpful. But then again, we have also a lot of resources on management pack authoring. And me personally, I'm a big fan of all the stuff Kevin does, and particularly his fragments. So Kevin, suggests that it's very easy to author a management pack using a fragment where you just replace some stuff and you get this working. And it's really as easy as it sounds. So it's a great way to author management packs. You just need a Visual Studio and you need to use the fragments, and you do find and replace. So there is another also authoring guide. It's written by Brian Wren. It is a collection of very, very helpful links on management pack authoring. And you will find this on the TechNet wiki page. And of course, last but not least, a great collection of SCOM authoring videos on the channel 9. Just look it up, and I think there are 28 modules there, all a bit more than an hour, and very helpful for all the guys who want to author. The next thing we already mentioned actually is the combination of Visual Studio for authoring purposes and of course the Visual Studio authoring extension. This is my personal choice for management pack authoring. Of course, there are other ways like a select MP author or direct XML or authoring, which is not the, let's say, the easiest way necessarily, but it's also a way to solve different problems when it comes to writing your management pack. So I'm using the Visual Studio Code or Notepad++, or just any XML editor will also do the job. And I think if you allow me, the last thing we are going to cover today is about support in SCOM or support platforms. There are a number of support platforms out there, starting with the Microsoft Q&A. So if you're asking yourself, where do I get help? I would say number one would be Microsoft Q&A. And then there are different also forums like the Microsoft TechNet Wiki page, where you can find a lot of articles, and also let's not forget the Squared Up community answers, where there are lots of guys who are answering regularly, and also last but not least the System Center Operations Manager on Reddit. Here is the way to, here's the time to mention also a couple of other resources on SCOM, the SCOM survival guides. There are 2 of them. On the Microsoft TechNet Wiki, it's a huge collection of links related to SCOM. Very important for leaving feedback is the System Center user voice site, which is actually taken care by the SCOM product group. So if you do a suggestion there or vote, this will be really monitored by the SCOM product group, and they are active on it, I can guarantee you. And of course, there is this great management pack repository on the Microsoft TechNet Wiki, where you will find all the Microsoft management packs, or a collection of them. I just want to steal 1 more minute of your time to show you the Microsoft Q&A platform, because I'm also active there from time to time. Let's say I'm also, let me show you this shortly. So this is the Microsoft Q&A platform. It's actually the new platform for support. Previously, we had the social TechNet forums, and you see here you have different tags. For example, Operations Manager, Management Pack, Authoring, Deployment, and you can see all the answers. You can ask your question. You can quote. You can. And what I can guarantee you here, because I know some of the guys who are answering here, I'm friend with them, and we exchange on a regular basis. So there is the Leon from Finland who is active there. There is a guy, Cyril, which is a French guy. Both of them very, very knowledgeable and very helpful. So if you write your question here, I guarantee you that within if not on the same day, then within 2 days, then you get an answer or some advices or some helpful links whatsoever. And please do this and use this option. I'm also trying to answer questions on a regular basis there. I myself, I'm also asking questions here if I'm, let's say, looking for a particular solution. So don't hesitate. Do it if you need help. That's a great way to get quick, let's say, advice.
Completely agree. Completely agree. All right. So there's a few other bits and pieces to go through, but do hang in there till the end because there's some more cool community stuff coming up. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. So the first of our sponsors is Cookdown, which is the company I work for. We do a number of free management packs, which you've seen in Stoyan's slides a little bit, but we also do code-free integrations for SCOM. So you can connect SCOM to many other platforms, from ITSM tools like ServiceNow and Sharewell, through to messaging platforms like Teams and Slack, but ultimately to connect you anywhere with webhooks. This is to get things into SCOM and to pull things out of SCOM as well. Everything you need is at cookdown.com, where you can get free trials of everything and of course get demos. And then of course Squared Up. So I'm sure everyone already knows Squared Up. They've been going for a very long time, since 2011, but they are the not so secret source for SCOM success, with providing dashboards, that single pane of glass that sits on top of all of that cool monitoring data that exists in SCOM and beyond. So there we go. I told you that bit would be quick. So now, before we go to Q&A, I'd like to introduce the next big thing that we're working on here at Team SCOMathon, which is our next big event called HackerSCOM. So this is the first time we've ever run this event, and consider this somewhere in between a hackathon, which is sort of a coding challenge, combining that with SCOM, obviously. The whole idea is that we're going to be asking you guys, the community, for ideas on what our contestants, which are experts from the community, will be building over this contest. And it's a 24-hour contest that will be kicked off on the 16th of November, and we'll see what our contestants have built on the 17th of November. And it will be judged by a panel of judges. Stoyan, I'm delighted to say you'll be one of our judges. So you'll be one of the people being able to
Thank you very much for having on board, Bruce. Thank you very much.
No, not at all. It's great. You could do it. So it should be a really cool way of understanding a bit more about MP authoring, because even if what comes out the other end is something that is not practically useful to you, there's going to be so much in terms of principles as to how you would author something, like what we'll be challenging our contestants for, or if you think you've got what it takes to be a contestant, everything you need is on scomathon.com/hackerscom-2021. Really excited to do that. And of course, we have our monthly coffee break series, which we're in today. There'll be another one towards the end of next month, last Tuesday of each month. We're hoping that next one will be with the SCOM product team on a new MP, though not yet confirmed, fingers crossed. So thank you very much. So now we will go to Q&A. So there have been some questions in the chat that I have been holding back because they didn't need to be asked at the point they came in on some of the cool stuff you've been showing, Stoyan. So I'll go through those questions, the ones I haven't already asked. So the first question is on manually triggering discovery, and the question is, discovery triggering only works for discoveries written with on-demand triggering. Is that correct?
This is correct, yes.
That is correct. Makes
so
sense.
if you then don't have an on-demand trigger, then you won't able to trigger it this way. So you have to wait for the configure discovery interval.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you. There's lots of questions on will the slides and the scripts be made available? Yes, we are trying from last month's coffee break onwards to write up essentially everything that is presented in these coffee breaks, including all the links as a one-stop shop to go and get all these links and bits of information, because there's lots of cool stuff in there, as well as obviously the recording of the coffee break. So yes, is the short answer. So the next question is, what is the best way to change the times in monitoring? Do we do small increments or large chunks? I believe that's, yes, that's the question.
The times in monitoring.
That's the whole question. I mean, there's two ways that came in at the point we were talking about data warehouse retention, but that isn't what the way the question is worded. And the person who's asked the question, I think, has now left, so I can't go for clarification. But let's see.
I think what I usually do, particularly, is when I set up an environment, then I ask the customer right away about the reporting requirements or retention requirements. So I'm directly asking the question, how long do you need your data there? It does not make sense to keep the data, for example, if you have a requirement for or reporting going back, let's say, half a year in the past, then you don't have to keep the data really for 100 days. Why using all the space? Just set up the proper retention settings, and then just keep your space. It costs you. It's your cost, and it's a great way to reduce it.
Makes sense. So there's clarifications. It turns out the person who asked that question hasn't left. So as clarification, for changing how long between alerts or monitoring intervals. So let me rephrase the question slightly then. How would you how do you basically go about changing things like thresholds, frequency between when monitors fire and trigger alerts and that kind of thing?
I think I get it now. Okay, yeah. So it depends. Let me put you this. Half of the time I'm using, it depends on the size of organization. So for example, if I have a big customer with a big organization, then it's most probably, and this customer has divided or specific teams like a DBA team or Active Directory team or Exchange team, that a very useful approach, and what I'm doing is just to get the CSVs, which EasyTune uses. Then I'm sending all the CSVs to the respective teams, and they can mark themselves all the stuff they want monitored, and then I'm just using the CSVs to import the settings. That's the one approach. So you start from zero, and you give the possibility to your teams who are using SCOM to monitor their workloads, to define what should be monitored and what not. That's the one way. And the other way is usually I install all the management packs with their default settings, and start slowly tuning the environment. So I start with default settings, then I ask some basic question like basic OS monitoring, like CPU utilization, free disk space monitoring, where should we put all the thresholds, and then I configure those. But then I let the environment run for a certain amount of time, and then after a certain amount of time, then I just go through all the alerts and talk to all the persons out there, and we just figure out if this is a good threshold, if it needs further optimization. So it's more or less dynamic stuff which happens over time constantly. So it's not just tune it and forget it. Sometimes you need to tune a monitor over time to have a better efficiency.
And there's no right or wrong answer, unfortunately. But ultimately, you know, as the SCOM administrator, you're not the best placed person to understand what threshold to set. That's why we have domain experts. So those are the guys that need to tell us what to set through overrides. Yeah, agreed. What else is there? Oh, Tyson Paul is here. Hello. He says on demand has nothing to do with triggering a discovery manually. It's highly likely you squared up folks already know that. Not a question, a statement. That's fair enough. Next one: how to monitor hung servers in SCOM. How to monitor bulk service monitoring. To do bulk service monitoring in SCOM.
Yes, I do it. I'm usually using the fragment to build a management pack for this. And the most used one when you're doing a bulk monitor, the easiest way, in my opinion, is to use a wildcard monitor or a service monitor using a WMI filter. So it allows you to just use wildcards and in WMI queries. So what you're doing is just you can grab a part of the name if your services have the common naming convention, and grab all the services and monitoring them in bulk. But of course, it depends on the particular requirement. So that's how I would do it.
Sounds good, thank you. Let's see, I think that's all the questions. Final one is, do you make the PowerShell scripts shown in this presentation available? And so we're going to share links to them because they are basically things from other people from the community. So we'll pull those together in a sort of final blog, which we'll write up after this coffee break. And that is all the questions I see. So I'm just going to give it another moment in case there's any last minute questions from anyone. That's probably a good amount of time. All right, so all that's left to do is to say thank you. So thank you everyone who has watched today's coffee break for attending. I hope you've found it as useful as I have. I learned some things today, and I've been around SCOM for a good while now. And thank you, Stoyan, for
thank you
saying
guys
yes
for having me, and thank you all for your time. I hope you can you have learned something new or something which will help you better administer your SCOM environment. Thank you guys, and stay safe.
And I hope to see you all at HackerSCOM on the 16th and 17th of November, and of course at next month's coffee break at the end of October. So thank you very much all for watching. Speak to you all soon. Thank you.
Bye guys, thank you.